In today's video, guys, we are installing 24 by 24 porcelain tile on our bathroom floor. We're gonna do a complete tutorial for you. So this is designed for DIYers who don't know anything. We're gonna give you every piece of information you need to be successful in this project, including a whole lot of information you probably aren't gonna need. But hey, the more you get, the better, eh? When you have a project, the first thing you gotta think about is this. What's my exit strategy from the room? You don't want to start tiling and then at the door, for instance, and working your way in, and then having to jump and dive through there like an Avenger, right? So you want to have a plan of attack. You also want to have an idea of your line of sights, okay? The next thing, where are your grout lines going to be? Where are the cuts going to be, right? Very important. So this is a 2-foot tile, and this is a 6.5-foot deep room. That leaves me with a 6-inch piece, which isn't really a sliver, but with such a big piece of stone, it could make it look that way. So what we want to do is go like this. Okay, I'm walking in, my vanity is right here, okay? My tub's over there. I'm not going to see hardly any of these cut tiles anyway. So let's not make this an issue. The most important issue in this room is right here, at the entrance to the shower. I would love to have a full tile coming off this wall, and then another full tile coming off of that. Okay, and then the last little piece underneath the vanity. That's perfect. So what we want to know is how square is my shower to the wall? All right, I'm going to push it all in the thin set here and check this out. There we go. My curb is perfectly square to that wall. All right, which means that if I install my tile with a little bit of a gap in both directions, okay, so that I can wrap my curb later, I have room for an expansion on that floor, okay? Now, I've gone ahead in advance and I grabbed my laser level right on. See this little yellow line? This little yellow line tells you where the laser is, okay? And so you can set it up to be right at the edge of your square. And then it'll tell you where that line goes over a long distance. In this case, we're looking for 12 feet. Now my gap off the wall here is exactly 1.75 inches. So I can go along the whole wall and check my gap. Obviously we have equipment issues here. I'm exactly 1.75 inches. So that's perfect. So make sure your starting line is a line that's going to be preferably square to the room, but visually is going to be pleasing when you walk into the room. So if the room is all kiltered, right, you might have to install your tile a little bit out of alignment in order to follow the predominant wall, or to follow something like an entrance into a shower, all right? So now we know where we're starting. We're gonna start with the most difficult tile on the whole floor. We've got a water supply and a toilet flange area. Like I said, if we give ourselves a little bit of mercy here, okay, we're gonna start off with a nice healthy gap over here. We're gonna be finishing off on this wall with baseboard. It's gonna be 3/4 inch thick, so we got lots of room. Now what I can do is I can get my measurement to the center of this water supply, all right? And I want to get that measurement from my square, not the wall. So you make sure you hover right over top, and you can see that that dot is at 3 5/8. When we're thinking about our tile, we're actually thinking in terms of a square, okay? And that's the measurement, that's the square corner we're going to measure off of. So this line here is 3 5/8. And then this line here is going to be 9. All right. And then I also have a toilet flange. Now this is going to create a lot of issues because you got to be exact with all your cuts, right? Here we go. The toilet flange is exactly 7 inches. Okay. So I can measure to here and then add 3.5 to know where the middle is. But the middle isn't as important as where that edge is. Okay. So let's just get this line here first. I can bring my tile close in this area, okay? But you want to actually be pretty close to this flange when you cut your tile. So we're going to go to 9. This mark here is 9. And then this mark here is the other one that we want, okay? Off of here, I'm going to go to 11 5/8. There we go. All right. Woo. So I know it's not sexy, but the first thing you got to do is be perfect. We're going to cut this tile. Now, one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to show you the secret right now. I'm going to go turn the water off to the house, and I'm going to drain the pressure out of the lines. And I'm going to take this this nut right here off, because then the diameter of the hole that I need is just big enough to get over the body of this valve. I don't have to consider this, which makes a huge hole, okay? And that will give you a little bit of mercy. So we'll take a look at our measurement here. We have, we're 9 inches across and 3 5/8 down. So what I do is I measure to the 9 and I put a mark right here on my plywood table, okay? Now, putting a plywood table together is great news. What this does is it gives me the location, okay, where I'm going to put my dot. 3 5/8, boom, and then 9. I can put a little cross there, okay? That make sense? That is just a great way to measure off your stuff. Now the flange was 9 from the top, so same thing, we're going to go 9, give or take, and it was 11 5/8 from this side. 11 5/8, okay? So now when I'm measuring 11 5/8, I've got a reference so I can be pretty close. 9 inches, okay? Whoa, whoa, what am I doing? 11 5/8. I'm looking for the middle of my toilet. I have to add my 3 1/2. Okay, my bad. I'm looking for the middle of my toilet. So I'm taking the 9 measurement plus 3 1/2 because the flange is 7 inches, okay? And then in the same regard, I got 11 5/8 plus 3 1/2, 14 5/8, and then a half is 15 1/8. Okay, there we go. Now I can bring these lines together. I'm going to measure 12 1/2 from here. And then 15 1/8, boom. So there's my center here for the toilet, okay? Now remember the flange was 7 inches, all right? I know the first thing you're doing when you're working, learning how to do tile is you're going to do the most difficult tile right away. But the rest is really quite easy, and it's just a matter of assembly. So we put our mark on that center spot, and we're going to mark each end at 7, okay? And we're going to put it here, mark each end 7. Catch the drift here, that goes pretty quick now. All right, and we're creating our circle based on that spot. All right, and that's what you're going to grind out. It's really that simple, and you can even draw it out if you want, if it helps. Put your knuckle here on the spot, and make your hand into a protractor. All right. Now there is a good chance that that is going to be too perfect. It's exactly 7 inches. So what I'm going to suggest is that when you're cutting this out with the grinder, we cut on the right side, the outside of this line, to make the hole just a little bit bigger. And if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter because the toilet doesn't come exactly 7 inches wide. The base is always a little bit wider. You usually get about 1 inch or so of mercy on each side, okay? That's important. So you don't have to be too judgmental on your circle here. Now, we're going to use 2 different tools because we're going to show you how to use a wet saw drill, hole drill, and then we're going to use a grinder on the big one. I'm going to have a chuck drill, okay, so that I can put my bit in there. And I'm going to need a grinder and a special grinder blade. This is made for ceramic and porcelain. Available at Home Depot. Not a bad deal. It's a little bit 40 bucks. And then I got a rigid table saw. Large tile, all those thin cuts. I'm down here in Florida working on the trailer, right? And it's like almost 100 degrees outside. So I want to cut inside. So I'm using a little portable table wet saw. That's a $200 unit. We'll pull it out in a few minutes. We'll show you how well that works. But first, let's get this little tiny hole done. Okay. This is old school. This is an old corded chuck. This tool, I think, was $65, if I remember correctly, which makes it very, very affordable. This saw is 1 3/8. All right. It'll probably punch a hole about 1 1/2 by the time we're done. But give you an idea, to do this right, you want to put 1 3/8. What's half of 1 3/8? 5/8 and then 3/16. God help us all. 10, 13/16. Okay, it's just a little less than 3/4. Let's visually do this. Yeah, a little less than 3/4. There we go. There's my halfway mark. Okay. So what I'm looking at is I'm going to be standing there trying to put the edge of the drill on that mark. Okay? Because what you have to do here, there is no tip. It's not wood. It's no drill bit as a pilot hole guide. So what you have to do is you have to start on the side going into that tile. And just to make sure that nothing moves around, clamp my tile to the plywood. Right? I mean, I'm not safety first, but I'm not stupid, right? Here we go. So we start off real slow, which is tricky with this particular tool because it is not designed to be used for this, but hey. And you slowly, once you get a good groove going, you can then rock this up into full contact. You don't want to come flush with the tool because it'll just run away on your tile, okay? So, here we go. Really gentle pressure, let the bit do the work. There we go. Now we've got full contact all the way around. It's just about managing the heat. If you want to use a little bit of water here, you can. You see this swaying motion? It helps me make the hole just a little bit bigger so that the only thing the bit is cutting is on the interior of the hole and reduces friction. Remember, this is a tile. You don't want to be pushing too hard, okay? Because you could snap the whole thing in half. There we go. That is a perfect hole. There we are. Nice. Okay, mission accomplished. Now we're going to show you how to use the grinder. And listen, tiling is all about the tools. It's about the process, it's about your building technology, it's about how your house is built. There's a lot of elements that go into doing a big tile like this. We're gonna cover that more as I'm installing the tile, but for now we're just gonna get our holes done. You can realize in a quick hurry that this is doable. This is a 4-inch grinder blade. Similar to that hole, I'm gonna be just using the grinder and passing it along on an angle, okay? That's it. Just like I said, we want to be cutting on the outside of that circle. Now, it is preferable to do this kind of work outside for the obvious reasons. Okay, now you can learn from that example. Don't be the guy doing this inside the kitchen. All right, now we get to go and install that. Woo! Oh, fantastic. We've got a nice, oh, that is just gorgeous. Okay, now, I'm just going to keep throwing rules out as I go, okay? Whenever you're working with a large tile like this, you always have to set it with the face pointing out. The reason being, you don't want to have your leading edge ever on contact, and this is plastic, it won't hurt it, like this. Because any dirt that you set that tile on is going to chip the glaze. And then the whole tile is garbage, okay? Because it'll just pop a big chunk right off the front, and then you're done. So always lean it with the face pointing out, and that glaze will never come in contact with the dirt, and it won't chip. Now, the joy about this scenario here is that I can't turn the water off to this property entirely. Something wrong with the valve. There's going to be a little bit of water going on. We're going to just try to be as quick as we can, which would make sense if I actually did all the thin set work first. Yeah. Let's do that. So let's talk a bit about building science here, because it comes into play. What I've got on the floor here right now is the Curdy Ditra membrane. And the purpose of this membrane is to have an uncoupling system so that the tile is not attached to the subfloor of the house directly. And to understand everything about Curdy and the Ditra, I'm just going to have you check out the video description in the comment section below, and you can watch that video. But it is a miracle product that allows us as installers to minimize the height and provide us an uncoupling system, and it looks really cool. Now, all these squares have to be filled in, obviously. This is why I'm going to such painstaking efforts to make sure that happens. The large format tile, these 2-footers, okay, they're becoming really popular. You've got to make sure that you're using the right building science if you're going to be buying this product. Not every house can have a 2x2 foot tile installed in it. That's just a fact, okay? You have to have built up so that your floor doesn't have much deflection. So Ditra, or at least another 5/8 layer of subfloor. Everything has to be screwed down if you're going to be installing over top of it. You also have to have your floor joists have to be adequate. So 2x10, none of that 2x8 stuff, okay? Now over here, on this job, I'm actually 2x6. And the only reason I can get away with using this is because this is a mobile home, and there is a steel beam running down the middle of each one of these mobile home sections that carries load, so that the 2x6 is only carrying 6 feet. And so that's actually strong enough that I can build on. I did a little research and found out that that was going to work, and it makes sense. I've been in homes made out of 2x10 with much worse deflection than in this place. All right, now what we're doing here is we're trying to add a thick enough ridge. Where did that come from? Of thin set that these ridges can be collapsed when we install our tile. Okay, and I'll show you. This is the system for troweling. This is a 1/2x1/2 trowel, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. It's important, all right? Big tile like this, you've got to have a 1/2x1/2. You can't try to cheat, okay? If you see sections like this that are missing thin set, there's not enough material there. Go put more on, okay? You pull across at a 45-degree angle until this thing is sitting up nice and perky like that, all right? There we go. All right. Use the short side in weird situations. Travel all in one direction. Okay? Now that's ready to go. So what happens is we set the tile line off center, and then we collapse them by pushing the whole tile to the left. That's the plan. The tile itself also has to have a layer of thin set on it. The easiest way to do that without damaging that glaze is to grab a couple of sponges, all right, and set your tile on that. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is put a thin layer. The industry calls it back buttering. Okay? when this is done right, it covers the whole surface of the tile, not just most of it. Okay? And what this does is it guarantees that contact. And one of the reasons we do this, to be honest with you, in the tile industry, they've had so many problems with the quality of the installs because using thin set is a relatively new invention in the world of building and construction technology. It's only been around since the 60s. And in a large majority of the cases, the installations have been less than fantastic, right? The tile industry has suffered greatly with too much advancement and not enough experimentation. And not enough training on the people that work in it either. Okay, so here we go. Now we're going to get rid of this valve. And it's going to leak. Hopefully not too much. I've got the other taps in the house on. Yeah, it's going to piss really good here. Now, the only reason I don't care about a little bit of water in this scenario is because this thin set is good to be used in situations where there's lots of water. Okay, now, this is going to be a little messy and a little tricky, so I'm just going to make this super quick, okay? Put the tile down, and then we push it to the left. And we'll get that valve back in there right away. Okay, here we go. Okay, so that type of cement that I'm talking about is it's a non-modified. Okay, so it's not requiring an adhesive element or a latex element. Okay. Whew, there we go. Mission accomplished. Now what we want to do is take a little bit of time here and make sure that we are completely square. Okay, we're going to clean that out and have a look at our edge. Make sure this is compressed tightly. There's a little bit of that water. Doesn't matter though. Okay, here we are. Okay, so we have 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. That looks pretty darn good to me. Okay. Now we're going to get into talking about the process of tiling and what it actually looks like. This and this. When you're tiling, you need two things. You need a pail with your thin set, all right? Of course, you need the right trowel. If you're using smaller tile, like a 12 by 24 or a 13 by 13 or something like that, you can buy a 1/4 by 3/8, not a 1/2 by 1/2. Use a lot less cement. Understand that a whole bag of cement thin set in this environment on Detra with this tile because of the size of the tile, with this trowel because of the size of the tiles are, you're probably only going to get about 8 tiles per bag of thin set installed. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're purchasing. There's 2 other elements. You want to have a pail with a sponge in it. This is for resting your tile up against the wall or back buttering. You need a tile leveling system. Okay? Now, if you are just learning how to tile for the first time, resist the temptation to try to do this without a leveling system. Spacers are not enough, okay? Whenever you're working with buildings, construction, and you're using dimensional lumber floor joists, there's always a crown, there's always bumps and weaves and rolls, and you need this really badly, okay? Don't even ask, should I get it? The answer is yes, all right? As soon as you get in a tile that's bigger than 12 by 12, you need a tile leveling system, and that is the way they come. The wedges come predetermine your grout size, okay? So that's the gap in your floor, and this is 1/8, and that's what I like. Skinnier than that is too much, okay? And we're gonna need a few of these. I'm gonna show you how to install them. Right here, you take this, it's called a margin trowel, okay? And you just clean that cement away from your grout line. I know. Yeah, I don't see anybody doing this on any of the social medias. Okay? Here's why. You don't need thin set in your grout area. As a matter of fact, it's an enemy. Because what you do with these clips is you slide them underneath in that abundance of thin set that's under there, because we used a 1/2 inch trowel. Okay? There you go. And if you put this in, when there's no thin set there, then when I put the next tile on, the place where this wants to break is right down here at the bottom. We'll show you later in the video how we take them out. But when we put them in, we make sure that they're nice and clean. All right? Because then you're breaking this off of itself, and you're not embedded in a bunch of cement. If you get it embedded in cement, it breaks all over the place, and little pieces of that little clip are going to be sticking up through the grout line. Well, then it's too late, right? Then you've got a finished floor, and you got to get in there with metal tools to try to cut that out, and you risk damaging your floor and popping some of that glaze off again. So it's really crucial at this point that you get those in, and then you move on to the next tile as fast as possible, because once you got your corners set and you got your difficult tiles done, the rest of this is just rinse and repeat. So work in a motion that allows you to work into the room and around the room and then back out the door so you can finish in the same day. My plan here is to finish this whole row to the wall and then do a second row to the wall, and then I'm going to go across the room and work my way back to the door. Because you always, once you get really started, you always want to have your ass to the door, okay? If your ass is facing the door, then you're going to have a way to get out. All right, so just consider that. Now, I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to put this here. We'll demonstrate that in a minute. I'm going to move everything around here a little bit. Let's get the next tile going. Woohoo! Now. And you can see some of these holes are already been filled with thin set. And that is because when I put the membrane down, I had some thin set left over. And so I just filled the holes with it rather than throwing it in the garbage, all right? Here we go. So step one, fill all these holes. They usually fill better if you come at it from two different sides. Okay, here we go. Those are full. I'm gonna have enough thin set to get this next tile in. All right, now, directional troweling. Whoa, let's get some product over there. If you stay under control, come up to the foot pedal of this little clip, okay? You don't have to push the thin set all the way up to the tile, okay? Keep that gap, maintain that distance, okay? And then you won't get cement in that gap messing around with your day. I'm thinking I got enough here now. One quick comb. Make sure I don't have any weak lines. Okay, beautiful. Measuring tape, there we go. 23.5 is the size of this tile. Let's just confirm, yes, we're good. You see there's a grain direction in this picture. The other one's on a 45 as well. We'll try to keep that same grain direction in every tile as we lay. We don't want to go like this, because if you've ever looked at a natural stone, like a huge slab of granite, they don't have S-curves. They just have, striations like this. It's all in one direction. So try to make it look as natural as possible. All right? Okay, there we go. We're gonna just lift and drop it. Set it up against our clips here. They're plastic, so they won't chip that material. You see how I'm stopping shy of where I want it? Gently lay it on there, and then we're gonna collapse the ridges by pushing it down and over. Okay? And that's all that is. And then we take our little wedges here, okay? Smooth on the bottom. They're notched on the top to provide grip. We take our tool, and compress it. Okay, what that does is it's pulling the flat on the bottom, they're pulling the height of the two tiles exactly the same spot. And this is how you avoid lippage. Right? Let's make sure we've got our consistent grout line. All right, now is a great time. If you see anything picking out next to your, like I got a little extra cement here, even with all that care, pull it out right away. Okay? Let's not have anything impeding the ability to kick that out nice and easy later. All right? And then while we're at it, one more thing we want to do. I never got a chance yet. I was running out of space. Clean everything as you go. Okay? There is nothing worse than the feeling of finishing off a tile job. And then everybody in the house wants to come and look at it. And then all of your tiles are filthy. And they go, oh my God, what did you do? Now these are attached. I can check my angle, and I am actually growing away from the shower. So I'm going to fix that by moving all of this as one slab. And that, now I have my angle right. Beautiful. Okay. There we go. Never leave cement where you're going to grout. And remember, every time there's a change in plane, you're not grouting, you're using silicone. Okay, so that's not a worry. All right, where is my sponge? So this whole project is all about one step at a time. So you set it, you put the clips, right? And then you add the wedges wherever you can. Okay, here we go. Here we are. You clean out the extra cement away from where you're going to be putting your clips. Doing yourself a favor to avoid problems down the road. There we go. And then you directional trowel, you back butter, and you set, and then you compress. Rinse and repeat. That's the whole system. So now that we've got the basics, let's get the wet saw set up and another bucket of thin set, because that little dribble drabble in there isn't going to take me very far. One more thing. Constantly be washing your tools. This bucket of water is there to keep the sponge wet, so you can wash your tiles, wash your hands, and wash your tools. If you don't, it's not going to survive the day. Okay, this stuff sets up really, really quickly. All right. There we go. All right, now, I think now's the perfect time to go show you how to mix your thin set and how to use your wet saw. Okay, so when you're mixing thin set, there's a lot of different kinds, all right? The Schluter All Set is a little more expensive, but it works in every situation. You never have to think twice. So I'm gonna recommend it, okay? You add water first, and the ratio is about 1/3 water, 2/3 powder, but you wanna put in 1/3 powder first, and then mix the water and powder together to create a nice mixture where there's no chunks of thin set in the corners. Mix it on slow. It's hard with this kind of drill, but I'm down here renovating this trailer on a budget, and I bought cheap tools to try to keep myself in check. And then what you do is then you just add powder as is needed to get that consistency you're looking for. And that is not thick enough to stand on, it just wants to hold a ridge. Okay, that is too thick, okay? It holds a peak way too easy. And I know from experience that in about 10 minutes of setting up, and it does, it sets up. You have to let it sit for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes of setting up, okay, it's gonna be just thick as mud, and you're gonna be needing a rubber mallet to pound it down to collapse the ridges. So, I'll add a little bit more water to it right now. Okay? See that? That's soft. And it still holds itself. Yay. That's perfect. I think I just sprayed your pants. The thin set. Okay, so now while we're letting that set up, we're going to open up the wet saw and get that set up. It's a $200 tool, and if you're using large tile, it's really nice to have. Otherwise, you got to use the grinder to make all those long straight cuts. That takes forever. It also allows you to work inside so that you can avoid the elements. So this is a project you can do year round. Whew. And there's the front. There's the on-off switch. So now you know which way the blade is spinning, okay? That's the compartment. Oh, now safety gear. Where's that garbage can? All right, right here. This is our locking nut for the blade. If you're not familiar with tools like this, take some time to read them, okay? It shows you the direction of the spin. The blade always spins at you. It's just like a table saw, okay? The idea here is it gets up nice and tight. There it is. Now it's sitting nice and tight. All right, and we're gonna throw this nut on. When this is on, this blade will spin in this direction. It gets wet and comes up and cuts wet. And that's all it is, all right? This is your overflow, okay? And that's probably your water level. Just right here, minimum and maximum. There you go. There's always a little bit of spray that goes on. Okay, let's get our power supply out here, because this tool is already ready to use. That is just amazing. Easy, easy setup. There we go. We got our water right here. Don't overfill it and be too violent when you add it, because this will leak right out onto the floor. There we go, there's my minimum amount. And that's close enough to maximum for me. I would rather fill it regularly than risk having it spilling all over the floor. But that's just me. There we go, done, ready for action. Check this out. Where's the button? Okay, now there's a light mist. Okay, and so you're gonna get a little wet. Consider that before you pull this out and try doing all your cutting for a tile job in the middle of January in Northern Ontario. Because that is miserable. And adding hot water makes it worse. All right, let's get our measurement and then we'll be good to go. We have to install one more tile before we get the measurement though. Now our thin set has been sitting long enough, 10 minutes to rest. We can go and install the next tile. Let's rock. Now in this case, I get to cheat a little bit. I get to trowel the whole rest of the gap. And you want to consider options like this. And then you can do the whole tile plus the next cut. Because this is under a vanity, I don't have to worry about how that grout line looks. Right? I'm not as concerned if I have a little red clip sitting in the grout line. So we'll try to do it as perfect as we can. But it is absolutely miserable trying to do directional troweling in a 6-inch space with a trowel this big. So consider that. So there we go. We have directional troweling in place now. And that's, again, so that air can escape when we're collapsing those ridges. You want to get 90 to 95% coverage. I'm talking about bond, right? Why don't we do that right now? I'll show you. I'm going to install this, make a mess and lift it up and show you what kind of bondage we're getting here. The other thing, guys, again, check your picture design, make sure it's all going the right way. Set it on the the plastic tabs, a little bit shy, right? Press it and collapse it. Put some pressure into it. There we go. Now I gotta do this for no reason. That tile went in really nice. But for the purpose of educating, let's have a look. See what we got. Yeah. Lots of suction is what we got. And that is perfect. The way this peeled apart is absolutely perfect. Too bad I can't just drop it back in. You know that? I've seen so many people demonstrate good coverage and then they just put the tile back in. But now we don't have ridges that we can collapse. We have nothing but air pockets. You can't just... You want to know if what you're doing works, do it once. That's it. Now, I'm going to back butter by removing all my thin set. There we are. The worst habits I've seen on social media tilers is they'll pull it up and check their bond, and then they'll destroy all the work they just put into it by setting it back in place. So now we're going back, redo what we've already done, make it all perfect again. There we go. There's too much thin set here. I'm gonna just keep troweling until I get the excess out. There's my grain. Okay, this tile is filthy now on all four sides here. Okay. Yeah. And that clip's been pulled out of position. Okay. It's all about the details when you're doing this kind of work, guys. It's not tricky, but it is all about the details. You need to have this back on purpose so we have somewhere to slide to, right? Remember, it was my process that we were checking, not that particular tile. Okay. As clean as we go. All right. Actually made a heck of a mess here doing that. Thin set everywhere. Okay. Now, okay, we're also going to be getting extra cement out of the way there. Now I'm not using leveling clips in the back, okay? Just so you know, but I am going to need them on the side for later. So we're going to set a couple of these in here. We'll do our wedges, smooth side down. And then okay. Nice. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Okay, now let's take our measurement and we'll take that tile softer. Oh, dry run here. I'm exactly 3 5/8. 3 5/8. Okay, but I want a quarter gap at the wall. Okay, so that takes me down to 3 3/8. And I want 1/8 for a grout line, so that's 3 1/4. Right? So that's what we're going to cut. A strip at 3 1/4. And we're going to keep in mind the direction of the grain. In this case, it won't matter. It'll be under the vanity, but it's not always going to be like that. So get good practices, good habits. Think about the grain and then do the end cut, 3 1/4. Right on, let's do this. And it is 3 1/4. Good, that actually worked out. Now, it doesn't always work out like that. Now, I got my tile. I got my grain going across the floor this way, so that's correct. Because this can also be used at a later date somewhere else in the room. We're going to get the blade spinning. We're going to keep pressure against the guard, like this kind of direction. So this hand is pushing against the guard, and this hand is pushing. I'm going to be beside the blade on this side, going straight the whole time, okay? And I'm going to get a little wet. That's okay. Well, that totally farted, didn't it? Something must be wrong with the way that blade is installed. Yep, it is. I need a wrench. I'd tighten this up by hand only, and that's not going to be acceptable. So what we're going to do is hold the blade Get a good nice tighten on there. Okay. Whew, that is a big piece of stone. These tables are rated for 24 by 24 if you're cutting square. And at the same time, you can see how difficult that is to manage all by yourself. But it works and it makes a nice cut. So let's go stick this in. This little chip right here, this is not a chip. This is the reaction of finishing off the cut because it wasn't started. For best results, if you're gonna have it in somewhere seen, you wanna always cut the first inch and then turn around and cut from the other direction, okay? And then you'll never get that damage. That'll happen every single time if you don't notch it first. Okay, here we go. Now, maintain the same process. We still have the back butter, even though it's a small tile, because we want it to sit at the same height as the rest of the tile. All right, there we go. Put a nice piece of tile together. And we're going to press on the front edge here. And just set that in. Now you'll notice, because the banding around the edge, that it's a little thicker here. All right, so you want to just fight with it a little bit. Put a straight edge on there. Make sure it's not too aggressively lifting up on the back side. This is not a good idea to do with your finger. That's the cut tile. Right. Keep everything clean. Remember, if the back side of that cut is full of cement, that's not officially an expansion joint. Okay? If there's no space, there's no expansion. So, consider cleaning that out as you go. All right. There we are. Nice and clean. Clean across in here. Okay. The next tile goes right in front of the door. We're going to talk about our strategy for the door area because it's really important. You will see that a lot of you are probably screaming at me in the comment section already in this video, going, Jeff, you're really screwed up by the door there, bud. Because my tile line's coming across about ½ an inch off in front of the door. And what you might think is a mistake is actually intentional. We're actually waterproofing this floor. And so one of the steps of waterproofing is to have a transition tile in the door jamb that is higher than the floor tile. And it's a little bit of an old school look, but it's very effective. So if you don't have heat and cooling supply ducts in the floor, you can actually waterproof the floor. So if you get any spills or whatever, there's actually 7 steps to waterproofing a bathroom floor. And we're making that video. It should be out in a week or 2. Hopefully that'll help a lot of you guys off. In this particular video, I'm just going to show you one of them is to actually put in a transition. So this is not a mistake. This is all intentional. It's part of the plan, man. But you know, in this business, you got to know the end from the beginning. So part of the end here is to know that I'm going to need thin set in these little squares for my transition piece. Might as well add that right now. All right, there we go. My waterproof membrane down. And like I said, come at it from 2 different angles and it fills in really well. Okay, here we go. Now let's get our big body of cement on here. You'll notice that these trowels are built really kind of funny. On one end, okay, I've got a piece that returns to the floor. The other end is open, so you got options. Okay, so if I turn this around, this keeps material away from my grout line joint. So when I'm going up against a tile, for instance, I can go up against that tile, okay? And I can directional trowel using the edge of that tile as my guide. And then I don't fill in that area with too much cement. Okay, you see how that works? Well, that sucker's gonna wanna come out, isn't it? All right, there we go. Being very cautious and intentional about how you're gonna work up and around these things, okay? That is really good technique. Okay. Now, I don't have enough thin set at that end. Wow, this has got some personality. Man, check this out. What the heck, that is phenomenally awesome. Go. Come on, right? There we are. Now, I know that when you're watching and you're listening to that horrible sound, you're thinking to yourself, Jeff, is that absolutely necessary? And then, to be honest with you, it's part of my processing. I want to have that same sound on every tile, because now I know that I'm making positive contact with all the little bumps along the back, and I'm only putting enough thin set on there to give a surface coverage. I'm not actually adding another eighth or something. That creates a lot more work when it comes time to set these tiles. Okay, here we go. Woo! Wedges and spacers everywhere. Now, if you work clean, all of these yellow clips are reusable. Okay? You can break this off. The red part is always just destroyed in garbage, okay? It breaks in half. But the yellow things can be reused. So take your time, get rid of your thin set, keep your job site clean, and you'll just be able to pick them back up. Off you go to the races. All right, here we go. I want that pretty for the later shot there. All right. Wow, we're just flying here now. Now, what to do about this, right? What an absolute mess this is. I'm a smart guy. I went out and I bought myself a vanity that's designed for installation on a tile floor with the penetrations coming through the floor and not the wall. So the base is closed, so you won't see any of this. So I'm not even gonna put a piece across the back and fuss around with it. I'm gonna just put this piece in and cut around for the purpose of that. Yeah. And that is going to be cut at, let's go to 18, just because I got lots of room. And I'm going to cut my tile off at 18. And do a straight cut. I know, there is no structural element on this vanity that requires tile installed back there. So I'm just going to move on with my life, make my job simple. And if you want to take the time to cut around all the little holes with all the different hole saw bits, you feel free to go right ahead. That is not my interest at all. I bought a proper vanity to avoid the need for that much work. Because I'm thinking smart, I'm thinking end from the beginning. So I'm just going to cut one off at 18 and call it a day. People that want to get particular about things that are never going to be seen. There's personality types out there, though. They're going to be jumping in the comments. Oh my God, I so would have done that. Guys, I'm sorry. I should have been wearing safety glasses last time I was using the saw. I was using my safety squints. It's probably not acceptable. I don't know where they are at the moment. So I just got to make a quick rip. We'll get on with our day. Remember what we talked about saving your offcuts? This offcut was actually 20 inches. So I just had to take a couple of inches off of it. I gotta make sure that I don't lose my process. I'm cheating here a little bit. I haven't put clips in the front of these two tiles. Man, oh man, oh man. I'm gonna tell you something. Having yourself a process in this business is what it's all about. I get so busy talking, I forget to do my job. There we go. And there we go. Come on, honey. Get under there. Oh, too close to the corner. I don't like them too close to the corner. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on a corner of a tile. I like to go around 4 inches on the inside. That's just me and my personal preferences. Here we go. Okay. If it's too hard to push under, pull it out and try somewhere next door. Oh, there's an easy one. Okay, the floor is going to be installed a little bit like this. And that's the point of the clip system, is to traverse all of those ridges. So if you're having too much of a fight pushing it under, don't fight, just check a little area around it. Usually you'll find a spot that's a lot easier. Or you can use your margin trowel and you can push it in, okay? Again, too much cement there. Now, my wife is actually traveling today, so she's not here to see this. I'm sure she's going to make me send her a picture, which is why that's not going to even catch that tile. There we go. Which is why I'm going to keep the tile clean as I go. Ladies like things clean on the job site. Oh, 2 things I learned in construction. Rules to live by. 1, if you're not early, you're late. 2, if you don't work clean, nobody trusts that you have any integrity. Nowadays, if you want to be a pro, you got to look it, you got to smell it, you got to talk like it, you got to act like it, you got to dress like it. And if you do all those things, people pay you good money to work in your house, even if you don't know what you're doing. That's true. Style over capacity, eh? All right. Now, this particular tile, I drew the green this way, so I have to collapse it this way. That's going to cause me issues with my grout line. I shouldn't have changed my process. Now I'm going to pay a price for that. This is going to be a messy tile install. Okay. There we are. You can break it off by accident. That's okay. Yeah, there's just a little bit too much thin set underneath there. Is that going to rise up on me? Yep, I'm going to need a clip. No way around it. So in this situation, we'll push it under and slide it over. We'll do it again. This one's going to need a little bit of love. Okay, that's acceptable. Using a clip doesn't guarantee it's going to be perfect, guys. It just guarantees that the top is going to be within acceptable limits. 1/16 lippage is acceptable. It's not desirable, but in older homes with dimensional lumber floors and all that warping and crowning, it's almost impossible to use large format tile and get a really perfect job. So don't be too hard on yourself if you can't achieve that, because this kind of tile was not developed for people with dimensional lumber in their houses. Okay, this is developed for people with engineered floor joists, because those are the only ones that have got a floor that's actually flat. You want to put something that big and that flat in somebody's house, it's already all warped and wavy. It's a near impossibility, so don't be too hard on yourselves. All right, guys, it's next morning. What I did is I actually sanded and primed the drywall. We finished all the tile off. We're gonna just go through a couple of details here. Here is my tub flange, okay? And we cut around it instead of going over top of it. We were using a 1/2 inch thick trowel, and you can see the cement before the ridges get collapsed. But after they're collapsed, it turns into like I don't know, maybe 3/8, maybe 1/4. And it's just, instead of going over this metal, it's going to be covered by the tub. So it's just best to give yourself lots of room. Don't do cutting circles in your tiles. It's not necessary, okay? Just get it out of the way. Over here, the water supply. I cut the hole a little bit bigger. I've got my lines here. I've got my cold water marked on a string attached to it. This is cut in a square, but what I did is I took my faucet, brought it in, marked the 3 locations where the anchors are going to go through the ground into the plywood, and then cut a square out inside of that, okay? That's a very simple technique. And if you want to learn how to cut a square in tile like this without having it overrunning, we have a video, put the link in the video description, about how to cut tile. Grinders, wet saws, the tile nippers for ceramics, all that information, we got it in one video for you. So you have a great resource so that you can handle all these scenarios. Basically, we just finished off the whole tile in the room. Nice and simple, it's ready for us to build on. All the tile on the back wall, this is all designed so that we can actually support the weight of our tile that we're going to be installing in our next video. So make sure you don't miss that. Subscribe to the channel to follow the journey, because we might be in a mobile home, but I'm not building this place to be a mobile home. I'm building this place to look more like your house, okay? So all these videos are going to be applicable to you no matter what kind of house you live in. Remember, if you know how to waterproof and you know how to tile, you can make any custom bathroom. All you need is just a little bit of information, a little bit of help along the way, and that's what we're here for. Next thing we got to do is we've got to get rid of all these clips, okay? And it is really this simple, and it's kind of a lot of fun. We just want to be putting pressure on this clip, okay, against the grain of this yellow, all right? You just kick it off. Now, you will see that it breaks way down here. So here's the clip before it breaks, okay? And that little area right there, that's where the weak spot is. And this is the clip after it breaks off, okay? Now, I like this clip system because generally speaking, you have to use a ton of cement if you were to kick this off and break it and have this red bottom part sticking up through. Some of the clip systems, it's more like a little H. There's 2 little bars, and you're breaking the 2 bars, and if you get caught in cement, then they're sticking out of the tile, okay? So this is really simple, a little bit of pressure. You don't have to be aggressive, okay? A little bit of, oh, that one's actually in some cement. You see that resistance? There we go. All right, now remember, these are all garbage, okay? So you can throw these out. You're gonna need more clips for the next tile job, but these are money. Save these and put them back in the bag that they came in, because you can reuse these over and over and over again. Here's a learning opportunity for us. I just kicked this one and it didn't move. I'm definitely bleeding, but that's fine. Listen, you take a measuring tape, okay? Not the metal clip side, just like this. Make it a hammer, all right? The ends of this are rubber, so they're not gonna mark your tile. You can beat it up that way. If you just keep kicking harder and harder, you're just gonna hurt yourself. Try to use the bottom of the shoe, not your toe. All right, guys. Now what we've got here is a man-made quartz sill. They actually make this available for sale at Home Depot and probably Lowe's as well, I'd imagine. We just basically cut this to fit the gap between the tile and the vinyl. The goal is not to have it perfectly fit, but to give us a little bit of room on each side to finish off with a silicone seal. But we're installing this over our Ditra, and the whole point of this is to have an edge at the threshold that sits higher than the bathroom floor, okay? But not so high that it becomes like a tripping hazard. Now, if you've been in houses from the 60s, you'll see this all over the place. That's how they used to finish off houses all the time, all right? And I know it's not the most modern look, but if you want to have a waterproof transition in your house, this is the only way to get it. There we go. Okay. Slide this in. Okay, now, again, my goal is not to set it on the flooring of the vinyl here. In this room, just want to get close. Use a rag, clean that gap out. Okay. Some pressure to set that in. So I know I got positive contact. My extra thin set. Now this material is actually wider than this. It comes in about a 5.5 inch wide. And that's fine, right? These walls are made of 2x3s, so we had to rip it down. Whenever you rip it down on a wet saw, this edge is gonna be very sharp. So take yourself a chisel and let's just grind off that edge a little bit. Okay. Doesn't take much. That takes the sharp edge off. Now you aren't cutting your hand when you're running your hand over it, okay? Same with bare feet. If you walk out of here with wet feet, you know the skin when it's wet is a lot easier to cut. So having that chisel down makes that much better. I'm just gonna go like this. When you push something together, it forces it up. See this? Okay. And then, when you slide it away, it pulls it back down. Creates a nice gap. That's a perfect gap for silicone on both sides. I'm really happy with that. What I do is I silicone, I fill underneath here, I fill up underneath the trim, okay? This little 1/4 inch edge here, over the whole surface, is gonna hold 10 gallons of water, all right? So if you have a problem bigger than 10 gallons, you really have a serious problem and you're getting an insurance claim. This will waterproof your bathroom against almost every other minor incident and guarantee you don't cause damage in your home that you're gonna have to repair out of pocket because most insurance claims have a deductible and water damage, you believe it or not, wrecking your ceiling isn't gonna cost you 5,000 bucks. It's going to cost you $4,990 and your deductible will be $5,000. All right, guys, that's it for this video. If you like getting this kind of information, let me know. If you got questions, hit me up in the comments section. Not everybody's house is built the same. Some of us have floor grate heating systems. Consider if you have a floor grate when you're renovating your bathroom, move that ducting into the wall cavity so it's sitting off the floor, okay? That's what I would recommend. That way you can waterproof your bathroom too. Cheers to next time.